Just recently, I've noticed that the United States has been getting involved with a wide variety of different nations. So it made me wonder, why does it seem like Saudi Arabia is the only country that the US both loves, respects, and protects so much? I started thinking, is it simply because Saudi Arabia has such an incredibly vast supply of oil? Other countries have a lot of oil too. Venezuela have a lot of oil, Iran have a lot of oil. Look what happened, they just got hit pretty hard. Or like Libya and Iraq, they also have oil, but the United States went after them too. So why does it have to be Saudi Arabia? I just feel like after thinking about it, I'm still curious. Why? Why does it have to be Saudi Arabia? Is there more to it than just the term petrodollar? Is there something deeper connected to this? And is there a chance that the United States might suddenly change its mind and decide not to side with Saudi Arabia anymore? Is that possible? If you're curious too, keep watching this video. You can support the video, Why Does America Care So Much About Saudi Arabia, on the Sai Money Monster channel by scanning this QR code. Or supporting the Sai Money Monster channel is super easy. Just like, share, and comment to chat with us. But what I'd really love for you to do most is hit that subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed yet, just one click is enough. Oh, and if you've already subscribed, no need to click it again. That way, when we upload the next video, we'll get to see each other again. Sound good? Thank you. Let's start by looking at some information about Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia has a lot of oil. It's one of the world's top oil owners, and that's true. But if you ask whether Saudi Arabia has that much military power, well, Saudi Arabia doesn't have nuclear weapons. And does Saudi Arabia have that much economic power? I'm not so sure. When it comes to oil, yes, but if we're talking about general trade, well, they don't have massive factories that impact the world like China does. Actually, most of Saudi Arabia is desert. Even water, they don't have enough for their own country. But why is it that for about the past 80 years, every US president has said something along the lines of Saudi Arabia is a truly great nation, a close friend, and the foundation of the region's prosperity? But the big question is, why does the United States love Saudi Arabia this much? Let's take a look back at the history. First point, is it because Saudi Arabia has oil? Come on, plenty of other countries have oil too, right? Venezuela, Iran, Libya, Iraq, they all have oil. Does America love them? No, it certainly doesn't. But with Saudi Arabia, whatever Saudi wants to do, whoever they want to fight, the United States always sends troops, weapons, and soldiers to help. A lot of help too. Back in 1990, when Saddam Hussein was about to attack and invade Saudi Arabia, the United States sent in 500,000 troops. That operation even had a name, Operation Desert Shield, to protect the Saudi Arabian desert. Or even the historic event for the United States, 9/11. At that time, everyone knew America was extremely angry about that terrorist attack. And after the investigation was completed, the whole world found out that of the group who hijacked and took over the planes, 15 of them were Saudi Arabian. But what did the United States do? They didn't do anything to Saudi Arabia. There was no punishment, no sanctions, no invasion. Basically, all that anger was directed instead at Afghanistan and Iraq. That's a real double standard. Normally, the United States' status in the world is like the world's police, right? Usually, when someone does something wrong, the police act fast. For example, when Russia invaded Ukraine, the United States immediately seized assets in Switzerland. Hundreds of billions of dollars, $1 billion were seized, followed by sanctions. Before that, when North Korea tested missiles, they were told to stop, but they didn't listen. So what did the US do? Sanctions. Iran, when Iran was about to have a lot of uranium, what for? To make missiles? They were told to reduce it, and when they didn't comply, sanctions again. There was even a time when Saudi Arabia led a military coalition to attack Yemen, which contributed to the death toll in the Yemen war reaching as high as 377,000 people from that incident. There are also 21 million more people suffering from hunger. The United Nations has called this crisis the worst in the world. As for America, the so-called world police, they didn't really do anything. Well, actually, what the United States did was provide military support in the Yemen war. They sold guided bombs, provided intelligence, and even flew planes to refuel Saudi fighter jets mid-air so they could continue dropping bombs. Saudi Arabia must have something really special. If you weren't curious before, after hearing all this, you must be curious now. The answer is definitely in this video, but if you want a deeper, clearer explanation, I'll also take you back through some history, specifically financial history, in the style of the Money Monster channel. So let's go. Would you believe that once the United States, the world's #1 superpower, almost went bankrupt? It happened around the 1970s, after World War II. There was a financial issue that became a major topic. There were 3 major financial and economic events that happened to the United States. The first one was after World War II. The United States was able to persuade every country in the world to deposit their gold in the US. So the US ended up holding, not owning, but holding 70% of the world's gold. At that time, after America had won the war, every other country was battered and exhausted from the conflict. So America said, let's do this. Let's all meet at Bretton Woods. They told everyone, see, when you keep your gold in your own country, look how dangerous it can be during wartime. Your country could be invaded by foreign soldiers, and they could steal all your gold. It's just not safe. So instead of keeping your gold at home, why not store it in America? We have top-notch vaults, really state-of-the-art, buried deep underground. It's super safe, you can store it here, and if your country ever gets attacked, you won't have to worry about your gold being stolen because it'll be with us. When America said this, people started to wonder, wait, is this really a good idea? Can we really trust them with our gold? So America sweetened the deal even more, saying, don't worry, once you deposit your gold here in America, you'll get US dollars in return. Take those dollars to the bank. Back then, the $1 bill didn't even have this written on it. They said, yeah, you can exchange it for gold. Every $35 is equal to 1 ounce of gold. You can come and exchange it anytime you want. It's easy and convenient. Plus, if you want to do international trade or anything like that, everyone can just store their gold in America and use dollars instead. That way, it's super convenient for cross-border transactions. Sounds great, right? Safe and convenient. So everyone ended up storing their gold in the United States under these conditions. They said that every $1 would be backed by gold at a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, the second financial issue that happened with the United States was that after everyone deposited their gold, the promise was that there would be dollars and gold backing each other 1-to-1, right? But at that time, the United States printed money. Yeah, they printed more money than the amount of gold they actually had. There were figures showing that in the vaults of the United States, the value of gold was $10 billion. But in 1970, it turned out that banks around the world, when you add up all the dollars they held, it was about $40 to $50 billion. There was only 10 billion in gold, but there were about 40 to 50 billion dollars. That means it wasn't 1-to-1 anymore. Just at this point, it means that if, say, in those 5 minutes, all the central banks in the world decided to exchange their dollars for gold at the same time, America would default. It could have gone bankrupt. But you might ask, why did America survive back then? Didn't other countries know that America was breaking its promise to keep the dollar equal to gold 1-to-1? Other countries were smart too. They were clever and caught on to everything. In 1965, the president of France started selling off dollars to exchange them for gold. Around the same time, Switzerland did the same thing. Then, in August 1971, the United Kingdom, Britain, they literally brought $3 billion in cash and walked into the Treasury Department to exchange it for gold. At that moment, the United States must have been really nervous, thinking, if countries keep coming to exchange like this, we're going to default. At that time, the president of the United States was Richard Nixon, and he realized right away that this was getting serious. We were getting dangerously close to the brink of bankruptcy. So what should we do? Then, on August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon made a live announcement on television, declaring that from that moment on, the dollar would no longer be tied to gold. He canceled the gold standard. From that moment forward, gold was just gold, and the dollar was just paper. To say that gold and the dollar were equal is like saying the dollar is just paper. Well, that's a bit too blunt. It's more accurate to say the dollar became paper filled with belief and trust. So did America really survive just by removing gold from the dollar? And what if all the other countries weren't happy about it? Like, hey, you can't just do that. Could they all just dump their dollars at once? Maybe they could, but nobody did. Why not? Because if every country joined together and dumped the dollar all at once, it could have caused hyperinflation, meaning massive inflation. It could have caused inflation to rise by hundreds of percent in the United States. But like I said, that didn't happen. So why didn't they do it? I have to say, the reason is that the United States didn't become the world's #1 superpower by luck. They got there because of their think tanks, or the groups of thinkers in the American government. They're incredibly smart and strategic. Back then, what the American think tanks came up with was exactly. Every country in the world could survive without the dollar or even without gold. But every country in the world, if they don't have oil, not a single one could survive. Don't forget, back then, there weren't any other technologies. There were no EVs, cars still had to run on oil. And in the 90s, how would factories operate? How would you manufacture anything if you didn't have oil? Even if you managed to produce something, how would you export it? How would you send ships out if you didn't have oil? When winter comes, how would people in the country survive if there's no oil? They'd literally freeze to death. Even if you managed to slaughter a chicken and got a drumstick, how would you make it crispy without oil? That's just my personal take. Back then, they just spread out the map and say, let's see. Who has the largest oil reserves in the world, produces it at the lowest cost, and makes the most profit? The answer is yes, Saudi Arabia, which is the country with oil reserves accounting for a quarter of the world's total. And then, in 1974, the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury at the time, William Simon, traveled to make an extraordinary offer to the Saudi royal family, an exclusive privilege that the United States had never given to anyone before: full, unconditional military protection and support with the most advanced weaponry. This offer in exchange for just 2 conditions. But these would be conditions that would change the global economy for the next 50 years. That is, everyone knows it well, the petrodollar. It came with 2 conditions. The first was that Saudi Arabia had to price every drop of its oil in US dollars. But if anyone wanted to buy oil, they had to use dollars. The second condition was that Saudi Arabia had to take the substantial profits from selling oil and reinvest them back in the form of loans to the United States. This is the historical origin of the specific term petrodollar. So what does this mean? It means that no matter if your country likes or dislikes America's actions or even hates us, you are still required to hold a reserve of US dollars. I don't know, but if you want oil, you have to hold dollars. When things are like this, no matter how you feel about the United States, that's no longer the point. If you want oil, you need to have US dollars. So you might ask, well, what if there are people who just don't want to use dollars at all? Can they buy oil from other countries instead and not have to use dollars? The answer is no, because the reason the United States chose Saudi Arabia is that Saudi Arabia is the leader of OPEC. So even if you try to buy from Kuwait, Iraq, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, or anywhere else in that region, you still have to make your payments in US dollars. Basically, Saudi Arabia is the key player that originally made the US dollar the world's global reserve currency. Do you get it now? That's why the United States has to love, fear, and support Saudi Arabia so much. And if you ask whether Saudi Arabia is really that beloved by the US, honestly, it's not just because of America's actions. It's also because of Saudi Arabia's own cleverness. Saudi Arabia thought about it too. If they let America get involved in their interests and military like this, what if one day America changes its mind? Because let's be real, it's not like that's never happened before, right? Honestly, America and the Soviet Union once fought side by side, but nowadays they still don't like each other. Saudi Arabia thought about this too. That's why they've already made preparations and plans. One of those is how they deal with America, offering what you'd call a win-win situation. Notice that other countries have oil too, but why doesn't the United States treat them as gently or carefully? Part of it is because after World War II, American companies, they invested billions of dollars to build gas pipelines or infrastructure for drilling and extracting oil in many countries. For example, Venezuela. I've talked about this before. And in the Venezuela clip, I mentioned that after the United States finished building all the infrastructure there, Venezuela ended up expelling the American oil companies from the country. They said, no need for you to build any more infrastructure. We'll do it ourselves, drill ourselves, and keep 100% of the profits. In other words, they stopped sharing the benefits with America and even caused losses for them. This made the United States very angry, and it's one of the reasons Trump talked about, including the incident where the Venezuelan leader was detained just a few months ago. Or take Gaddafi, for example. He nationalized the oil industry, and just a few years later, Gaddafi died. Or Iran. When Iran started selling oil to China, just selling to China was already bad enough, but to make matters worse, they sold to China in yuan. And look at the situation today. America hit back, of course, but what Saudi Arabia did was different. They didn't break ties with America, didn't send soldiers, didn't have an army involved. What Saudi Arabia sent were accountants to negotiate and become business partners. Aramco, originally, the United States was the major shareholder. Now it's Saudi Aramco. But back then, in 1973, Saudi Arabia bought 25% of Aramco's shares for $500 million. After that, global oil prices went up, right? And they increased a lot, which meant Saudi Arabia made much more profit. So in 1974, they bought another 35% of Aramco's shares. At that point, they held 60%. They became the majority shareholder. Then, in 1980, Saudi Arabia bought even more shares. They bought 100% of Aramco's shares, so it became Saudi Aramco. But this didn't completely go against American interests. Do you know what the king of Saudi Arabia said about America at that time? He said, even though we, meaning Saudi Arabia, own the oil, Americans are still the best at extracting it. So, America, why don't you help us with the drilling? And then the two of us can make money together. Isn't that right? And after that, Saudi Aramco started hiring and paying American experts to help manage and operate the oil drilling. The profits from Saudi Arabia's oil have become a crucial and fundamental component in supporting U.S. elections and governments. And Saudi Arabia is also a major and highly significant creditor to the United States. This means Saudi Arabia's influence is now deeply woven into every single fiber of the economy. It's not easy for the U.S. to just cut them off. That's one of the guarantees that if one day oil is no longer important to the world, or if the United States decides it doesn't want anything to do with Saudi Arabia anymore, it won't be easy to just drop Saudi Arabia. After doing this research, I feel like it teaches us that trying to defeat the other side by destroying them or using force, it can always backfire. But being able to design a deal so that it's a win-win situation where you have the motivation to help me succeed and I have the motivation to help you succeed because we both benefit, that's something incredibly powerful. It's even more powerful than weapons, and it's a bond that's stronger than any chain.